we have the three set of fours that are probably the most popular, I would assume. The Petzl JAG, the Harken Wingman, and depending on where you bought it, Sterling, Rock Exotica, CMC, the AZTEK. Set of fours is a generic term. It's a subcategory of block and tackle systems. Block being like blocks of pulleys, tackle being the line. It comes from sailing. These have evolved over the years. They've always been around, but like the small compact packages are getting better and better every year. Set of fours means 4 actual pulley sheaves. I'll just take the AZTEK for example. 1, 2, 3, 4, hence set of fours. I think there's also a set of 6s. I don't know if it was ISC that made that, I can't remember, but they're simple mechanical advantage systems. Either a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1, depending on which way you anchor it. Also depending on what you're moving, or what actually moves and what's actually being anchored. And they all have a share of pros and cons. You can never have your cake and eat it too. But let's start with some of the attributes that we want in a set of fours, whether it's for personal use or doing some sort of system contraption. If we look at the height, so right now, all these processes are relatively the same height for the most part, and the carabiners are pretty much the same length. And as we go down, and I've already pre-contracted all these into the smallest profile, and so if you look at like where the bottom carabiner ends up, and granted you could argue that the JAG could be shorter, but I wanted it to have the same swiveling capability as the Wingman and the AZTEK, so I just put in swivels here and here, and that's basically as small as I could get it. So if you look at the height profile, or how we can track everything, the clear winner is the Wingman. It compresses down to the smallest profile because the design is able to suck that second block way up high, and you get a nice compact profile. It's pretty much 6s between the AZTEK and the JAG. Let's talk about ease of expanding it, because a lot of times, sometimes we take these things out of their bags or where they're packed in. You want to be able to like rapidly expand it if we know we're going to haul something up. So how easy is it for us to do that? Well, we'll start with the AZTEK. So right now the AZTEK, and it doesn't matter for this application which side is pen, but the rope grab, the progress capture is the prusik. I have to move this, tend this with one hand and then pull, and that's relatively easy as long as I'm anchored and I'm pulling in a straight path. But a lot of times we take these kits out and we want to just do this in mid-space, and we don't really have something to anchor to and lean back and align it straight. So sometimes what we'll have to end up doing is take the pen out completely and get rid of all the prusiks, and then we can extend it out freely without it even being anchored anywhere, just in our hands, just extending it like that. Some of the older AZTEKs will be a little bit more difficult, as these prusiks kind of get sucked onto the sides of the blocks. It kind of creates friction and it can bind up on you. Let's look at the Petzl JAG. Its progress captures the tooth cam way up top. So I have to release the cam, and then I can freely extend that out, and it's pretty effortless. So really easy to do with the JAG. I'd say relatively easy to do as long as you unpen the prusik on the AZTEK. The Wingman, I would argue that it's a little more difficult if you're just trying to grab it in mid-space and extend it, because you have to actually grab the handle or the wing, extend that open, maybe hold it there like that, and then pull it out. But it is doable. So just knowing how to manipulate the devices, if you know how to do that, then it's a moot point. They're all pretty easily extendable if you can defeat those progress captures. And on that note of progress capture, let's talk about, as far as versatility goes, where I want to use something just based on versatility. So if we look at the JAG, this is more like a purpose-built kit for something specific. Mainly probably just like work at heights, pickoffs, tower rescues, that sort of thing. I can't really use this for personal use, because in order to have ergonomics, I would have to hook in, and this would be me operating it, pulling down. But if I wanted to go down, this is the 1 meter JAG, it's not the longer one. The progress capture is way up here, so, and I don't have any option to put a progress capture down low. So this doesn't really work very well for personal use, the JAGs. Now let's look at the AZTEK. The AZTEK, it doesn't really matter, because now I can unpen and determine which side I want to work from. So I can pen the blue prusik, because typically AZTEKs, that's blue to you. And now I can manipulate the progress capture at the load, which is myself. I sit into it, it grabs. The downside to this is really on the lower. So I can haul myself up, but I lose some progress every time I haul because of that distance right there. So I haul up, I make progress. I just have to make sure that this is dressed, and I release, I lose a little bit of progress, and then it captures and engages. If I want to go down, I have to release by hauling up and then bumping with one hand. And sometimes it may be difficult to kind of control with that brake strand here continuously. So what I do sometimes is I just coil it around my hand, pull up, bump that down, release until like my hand is extended, let it capture, and then repeat the process. So it can get a little bit cumbersome on the way down just because of that. So you can operate this personal use, the JAG you cannot. Let's take a look at the Wingman. Again, it's just like the JAG, I can only use it on one side. But the way it's rigged here, so let's compare this to the way that it's rigged on the JAG. So right now, both on the JAG and the Wingman, the terminal end of the line is at the anchor. The progress capture on the JAG is at the anchor. The progress capture on the Wingman is at the load. It's very easy to pull, and it auto locks, and I don't lose any progress. And then if I want to go down, I don't have to pull this up to release anything. I just treat this as a brake strand, and then I can release that ratcheting pulley and then go down. So I release the load while under tension without having to make any uphill movements or haul movements to release like on a Prusik. So for personal use, Wingman is great. Right now, if I'm using this for some sort of system application, maybe it's like a tripod or something up high, it's ergonomic for me to haul down. And so if the load was here and I'm hauling down this way, this is a simple 4-to-1 mechanical advantage with a final change of direction. Okay, at rest, if you look at this pull strand is slack, and so is this. So this is all slack at rest when weighted. And now you can see, for all practical purposes, 1, 2, you only have 3 strands of rope supporting the load. And really what defines or dictates the true strength of these systems is really, it's limited by the number of strands on the 8mm. All the 8mm is pretty much standard. It's sewn terminal connections, and you could say that anywhere between 12 to 15 kilonewton braking strength on these strands. So with 3 strands of 8mm, it's actually less strong than the block themselves. So as a whole, you would derate that. Even though like some of these things say NFPA general use, like that's more for like selling a product and saying that yes, we paid money to have these things tested, but you have to understand how you're using them in application to know that like, well, the strength ratings actually do change. So if we engage the blue Prusik and we're using this in a system with a change of direction of 4-to-1, 3 strands support the load. We can beef up our strength on the AZTEK, which is what's great about the AZTEK, by simply engaging the orange Prusik instead. And now I weight it at rest. The final change of direction is still unloaded, and you can see that it's slack through that final change of direction pulley right here, but it's being held by this Prusik. This Prusik is no longer engaged down here. It's holding 1, 2, 3, 4 strands of 8mm rope in tension. So we've increased our strength. If you read the AZTEK manual, it'll say 36 kilonewton braking strength as long as that orange Prusik is engaged, and you derate it to 30 kilonewtons if the blue Prusik is engaged. Okay, that sort of makes sense, whatever, give or take. Let's look at the capture on the Wingman. Okay, so the Wingman, the capture is in one spot and one spot only, and you can't change it. So this is rigged as a 4-to-1 with a final change of direction. Can't really do anything system-wise with this, or it will be kind of difficult because your capture and release is not up at the anchor, it's down where the load's gonna be. So that could be problematic, right? If you look at how many cords are supporting the load under tension, this is loose, the final change of direction, and that last strand here. So these are out of play. It's 1, 2, 3. So let's rig this the other way, this way. And I think there was a video about like how, oh yeah, you can make it a 5-to-1 for a confined space rescue with a really long piece of 8mm cord. And they said, oh, you have 5 strands supporting the load and it's really strong. It's like, well, no, only when you're hauling do you have 5 strands. So right here, We flipped it around, and now we have to pull up this way. That increases our mechanical advantage from a 4-to-1 with a final change of direction to a 5-to-1 simple with no change of direction. But in order to actually use this in a system, and we need a additional gear. So we have to get another carabiner, another pulley in order to take advantage of ergonomics in a direction of pull. Okay, so now we have a 5-to-1 with a final change of direction right here. And yeah, during the haul, we have 5 strands supporting the load, but the second I stop hauling, it doesn't matter. This is loose, and this is loose, and you're still only on 3 strands. So general use, technical use, I don't really care. I just want to know what's actually going on. And there's 3 strands at all times in a static state with the Wingman. You can make it 4 strands with the AZTEK, so you have more versatility. Also, like, ultimately in the end, like, these things are only as strong as like the things they're connected to. So you have to take in consideration the carabiner, right? 22, 27 kilonewtons, 30 kilonewtons, it's all fine. We're moving people, not big, large animals or equipment. So this is all just semantics. Let's go to the JAG and where the rope grab is on the JAG. Okay, so the rope grab is at the very furthest possible place to actually put a rope grab to engage. The only reason that Petzl can get away with these sharp teeth right here is because it is so far, it's like the last thing away from the load as far as like the rope that is going through your pulley system, which means that out of all the places, like if you, this is holding the least amount of force or tension possible. If this tooth cam rope grab was at a place down where like a blue press hook would engage, or maybe holding 3 strands, I would say that, I don't say less safe, but it's more of a risk. Here, it's holding 4 strands. So 4 strands, 25% on each strand. It's holding the least amount of force that it possibly can and get away with it as being a rope grab. As far as rope grabs go, where you put them in your systems and mechanical advantages, the closer the rope grab is to the higher tension. So like for example, the blue, if I engage this blue press hook that holds 3 strands, it has a faster response, just like putting a press hook on the leading end of like your basic 3-to-1 mechanical advantage system, as opposed to putting your rope grab press hook somewhere else after a change of direction. The stop or the grab is more instantaneous. The downside is it bears all the force or all the tension of your load, the effect of that. And it's really hard to release. So on the flip side, you can put it on the very back end of your system like the JAG did, use a sharp tooth cam, and then it holds less tension. Also a set of 4s, but this is like super like beefy, super duty set of 4s. This is your block and tackle system with thicker rope, and the progress, it articulates the sheave in here and pinches the rope in a smooth grab kind of way. So this is your standard like 4-to-1 confined space tripod contraption. And you can put as much rope length as you want here. Just know that it eats up a lot just to go relatively short distance. But it's the same concept. The rope grab is up here. So in a static state, you pull this down, you have 4 strands supporting the load. Super strong, really beefy. Using it for personal use, I wouldn't do that for the same reasons as the JAG, because the release is up here, and even though this thing has a string and you can drop that string down maybe and reach it and use it for personal use, it's just really big and bulky. So it doesn't really fit the bill well for like a personal kit that you can carry around with you on your waist or on your hip. So all these set of 4s kits, you can take the terminal end and repurpose it for whatever you want. The AZTEK, like, they decided that they were gonna repurpose it as they call it travel restrict or travel restraint, but what it really is fall restraint. That's the actual term in OSHA. It's a subcategory of a personal fall protection system. There are a lot of people that talked about shock absorbers and said, oh, well, you want this thing, you want to have this Purcell on here as part of your travel restrict, so that if you fall, it's a shock absorber. And it's like, no, this is not, granted, like, yeah, it will absorb some force or some shock. The more stuff and cordage you have anywhere, it adds more shock absorption capability. Longer strands, more shock absorption. But if you ask somebody who's in the work at heights industry, or somebody who's like really in tune with OSHA or ANSI ASSP standards, they're gonna say no. There's no way that this is a shock absorber, because shock absorbers are these packs that deploy stitching and they arrest a fall. This is a fall restraint lanyard. It's intended to not let you fall. It restricts your travel so you don't go over an edge. It's like a makeshift one. It's fairly cheap and inexpensive. And then if you asked somebody who is in tune with OSHA, like, does this thing qualify even as a travel restraint, fall restraint? It all means the same thing. Does this qualify as that type of fall protection? They would say no, it doesn't. But we use it all the time anyway. And we'd say, well, why does this not qualify as an approved fall restraint device or lanyard? And the answer is because if you read OSHA, and ANSI ASSP will support this, all your lanyard from end to end needs to be at least 22 kilonewton braking strength, which the Purcell is not, the 8mm is not. 8mm at best, 15 kilonewtons. You tie a knot in it, you can just say, like, at best 10 kilonewtons. But we're okay with that. I mean, like, we use it responsibly. We are aware of that. We can use this as travel restraint, especially like if we're working in places where OSHA doesn't apply. So the Griot lanyard is a manufactured lanyard. It does meet that OSHA regulation and the ANSI ASSP standards for fall protection in the form of a fall restraint. Much stronger, higher braking strength than the set of fours. Not only is this a fall restraint lanyard, it's also a work positioning lanyard. And you can actually descend on this. So I would say it's also a descender. I can turn my set of fours into one of these by getting rid of the Purcell. And Madrox Safeguard is basically like a lighter, smaller, compact version of the Griot. The Griot is a sealed thing that's manufactured, and it's meant for a specific size of rope. There's no big spring in here. Same thing with the Safeguard. There's no spring in here. Anywhere from 8 to 11 millimeter, this is capable of doing. And granted, like, I put this on, and it may creep out a little bit if I just shake it a little bit. Like, this could creep out just a little bit, but it's not as bad as like a Grigri. Grigris are terrible. They have no place in rescue, in my opinion, at all. But this works really well as a positioning lanyard, and I can also descend too on it. If I have a weight packs, if it's a heavier load, I can always do like a Munter Italian hitch, or just route this through a redirect on the brake strand to help that added braking friction power. The thinner the rope, the less friction or the less braking control you have. The thicker the rope, the easier it is to brake because there's more friction inside. This doesn't qualify as OSHA ASSP standards fall restraint, but we're going to use it anyway. If we take a rope grab and then hook our set of fours into it, here you go, Gabe. And then we put a rope grab all the way down, further down the line, we can now start to collapse on the same line and create a dead leg. So as I come up, I create this dead leg, and I capture with my AZTEK or my set of fours. And this is a good application if I wanted to maybe just tie off a bad section, or if I just wanted to go up quickly to get something unstuck at the bottom or at the load side, and then resume. The downside to doing it this way, having both rope grabs on the loaded line and creating this dead leg, is that your descent control device or your progress capture at your anchor, it doesn't take this dead leg up. The prusik was static, the carabiner was static, this block was static. None of this moved. The only thing that moved was down here. So when I did this, this would be a 4-to-1 with a final change in direction. I'm going to leave one prusik kind of lower towards the load on the loaded line on the strand, but up here, instead of having the AZTEK on the same portion of the loaded line, and what this prusik was just an anchor point. It was fixed, it didn't move, but now I'm going to move this and put it on the brake strand here. And when I do that, my system that was the anchor, it now moves. And so this is where we shift from a simple mechanical advantage system to a complex mechanical advantage system. I don't have like a prusik high on the load side and then the other prusik low on the brake side, because the way this is going to move, it doesn't make sense. It's just going to stop. So I rig further out on the load strand with the rope grab, and then right butt up against the device on the brake strand coming out of the device. So I'm not going to be hauling where I would normally haul. I'm going to actually haul on my AZTEK. And so, depending on which way was oriented, it's either a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1. But that's for a simple system. And now, what would be anchor points are both moving, and my pulley blocks are moving in opposite directions. So what defines a complex system is when you have one or more pulleys moving away from your anchor, and that's what defines it. In this case, we have 2 pulleys moving away, 2 pulleys moving toward, and this is a complex 9-to-1. I can only get so much lift out of a complex 9-to-1, but I can lift heavy objects, short distances. We call these systems, these complex systems that we put inside of a rope going through a descent control device or progress capture, these are called inchworming systems, also known as inside systems. A little known rule, and I think Richard Delaney did a good video explaining this, but if I'm a load and the terminal end of your set of 4s is at the anchor, if somebody's pulling on this, then it's a 4-to-1 simple 4-to-1 system with a final change of direction. That's assuming that like you, the cameraman, or someone else is pulling me up. But if I'm the one that's doing the pulling, that changes. There's some different terminology out there. You could call it the frame of reference rule or the input source rule. I think I read somewhere where it was called like a diminishing loop or something. It's more like I'm pulling the anchor and the earth towards me as opposed to me pulling myself towards the anchor. It's a lot more easy to grasp for people that do like a lot of self-winching on like slick rock down in like the desert, like Moab or something, because like the winch is my hand on a car and I am hauling myself out of a pit up onto the slick rock, and from my perspective the earth is moving towards me, and so this, from my point of view, this terminal end is actually at the load up here, and I'm the center of the universe. And so it's a 5-to-1 always. When I pull myself up on my own system, it's a 5-to-1 with no change of direction. The second that I stop hauling and you start hauling, it instantaneously changes to a 4-to-1 with a change of direction. And it's pretty trippy to see. You can put a load cell in here and actually see the force on the load cell as you're pulling on it change instantaneously. So frame of reference rule, input source rule. It's always going to be a 5-to-1 when you're hauling yourself. It's always going to be a 4-to-1 with a change of direction when someone else is doing the hauling. Cool.